get out of wise man.
Oh,
Poor man stealing. I love when you like lean over and then I get like the cat winking at me. Yeah. What did you get?
Savvy sliders.
Rah,
Two
rah,
chicken
rah, rah.
sandwiches.
What are
Two
they?
chicken sandwiches with fries.
God, I want that. Alright, hold on. Alright, do you remember what happened last time?
Um, all I remember is that there was flirtation.
Yeah, so they. Where did it start? They went back to um, the Temple of Wind and Water that was run down, and they decided to play a game. Um,
Right.
yeah, Hua Cheng and Shilian like were in cahoots. They're like, we have to
You
draw this
freak.
guy out, and they were suspicious of Ming Yi. And then the important part is that Shilian said that Reverend that whatever they're called of empty words, they
Mm-hmm.
have this quirk where each three statements, one of them has to be a lie. So they played this dice game, and then they got ordered to strip at first, and then they Mingy asked what the worst feeling in the fucking world is, and then Hua Chung went on a whole spiel about how like watching your beloved suffer is the worst thing in the world, and then um they tested Mingyi. Mingyi passed the test, and then after Mingyi passed the test, Mingyi's suspicious now, so he goes and tries to grab Shilian. And let me see.
Hey, sweetie. You act like I
Oh
don't
yeah,
see
the
you.
two divine statues in the building started crying blood, and then like everything got all scary and like trying to write out words so that Shi Ching Shuen would be scared and that would feed the beast because Shi Ching Shuen has earplugs in and can't hear right now. And then Mingy ended up destroying the statues, and then a bunch of like rowdy villagers came in and were like in costume,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, "Give us money, give us a tip." And then Hua Cheng and Shilian make it out together, and then they call. Oh yeah, Hua Cheng gives Shilian way too much spiritual power, and he nearly blows the fucking roof off.
Right.
And then Shi Jing Shuen calls Shilian and is like, "It's okay, Mingyi got me out." And then Mingyi in the phone call is like, "That wasn't me," and that's where
Yeah.
it ended.
Um, that wasn't me.
That was not me. Where's my water? Hold on.
This is like when you go to the club.
I've never been to a club.
I also haven't. I'm making this up.
Okay.
It's like when you go to a club and your friends like texting in the group chat. Don't worry, I made it home safe. This person took me. Well, the person
Yeah,
text.
that
That
wasn't
was
me.
not me.
That's scary. It's like the two-sentence horror story where like your mom calls you
Yeah.
from downstairs, and then your mom's upstairs and is like, "I heard it too."
Yeah.
Okay. Chapter 55. Fight the Reverend. Crowned Prince takes Windmaster's place. So the last chapter ended with Shilian snapped his head around. "Oh no, Lord Windmaster, just who was it that pulled you away?" However, Shi Jing Shuen did not utter another sound. Shilian knew this was bad news. Lord Windmaster, what happened to you? Are you still there? What's going on? Why aren't you saying anything? If he had only been pulled away by rowdy night cruisers who were seeking a bit of fun, he wouldn't be so quiet all of a sudden. Had he already met with harm? But his anxiety was useless, since he didn't even know where the Windmaster was right now. The mob finally quieted down, and Ming Yi was able to push his way out of the Temple of Wind and Water. The Heavenly Realm had a decree to never use spiritual powers on mortals for selfish reasons, nor to appear before them at will. If mortals were harmed or their lives taken, demerits would be imposed. The decree certainly made things difficult for law-abiding heavenly officials. Otherwise, they would have sent those people flying like that roof that with just a wave of their hand. The crowd finally snapped out of their shock and started screaming wildly. It's appeared! It's really appeared! Monsters have come! With that, the crowd broke up and dispersed. Lord Earthmaster, Shilian asked anxiously, how come you didn't hold on to Lord Windmaster earlier? Have you seen him? When was he lost? Ghosts snuck in and were ambushing people in the middle of all the confusion, Mingy explained. It seemed that he'd been there. It seemed that he'd seen there were lives on the line and diverted his attention to go save them. He'd fended off the ghost attack, but he lost a friend. Let's split up and search, Shilian said. He shouldn't have gone far. Suddenly, Shi Qingxuan's voice came over the communication array anew. He was laughing boisterously. Ha 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 ha! The laughter was abrupt, but at least there was finally something. Lord Windmaster, what happened to you just now? Why did you stop talking all of a sudden? Shilian hurriedly asked. I thought something happened to you. Ha ha ha! How can anything happen to me? To this Lord Windmaster, I was only trying to scare you all. Ha 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 ha! Ming Shang, you bastard! How dare you not grab hold of me? If I die, I'm definitely turning into a supreme to come and haunt you. Ha ha ha! Stop your ha-haing. Say something comprehensible, Ming Yi demanded. Shilian knew that the more anxious and frightened Shi Qingxuan was, the more he would ha ha ha. In fact, he'd even forgotten to pause between words. You didn't open your mouth to speak, did you? Shilian interrupted. Your face didn't show any obvious reaction. Have you fought back? I didn't speak. My expression didn't change. I haven't fought back, Shi Qingxuan answered. Oh dear, he's scared silly. Shilian relaxed his tone into something gentler.
Scared silly.
Very good. Lord Windmaster, listen to me. Everything's all right. Don't be scared. Keep on as you have and pretend you didn't notice anything. If you have something to say, just say it secretly in the communication array. Absolutely do not let the creature notice that you know what it is. Secretly spread your divine aura to form a spiritual circle beneath your feet to protect yourself. That way, you can at least ensure you won't trip or fall into a ditch. You'll be able to sense any incoming weapons, too. Shi Qingxuan sounded like he was on the verge of tears. Okay, and then? And then take deep breaths, Shilian said. That's it. A couple times. Do you feel a little better? His tone was very gentle and quite effective at reassuring people. Maybe a little bit, Shi Qingxuan said. Thanks, Your Highness. Shilian then tried probing. Now, do you think you would feel... How do you think you would feel if you tried to open your eyes to sneak a peek at the creature pulling you along? Would he be able to handle it? I'd probably die, Shi Qingxuan said. It seemed that if Shi Qingxuan took so much as a glance, his terror would peak the moment he did, and he would turn into a most delicious meal for the Reverend of Empty Words. After that, he would probably lose any capacity for self-defense. Furthermore, if that thing was staring back at him the moment he opened his eyes, the esteemed Windmaster would probably foam at the mouth and crash like a fallen star. Why don't you just keep your eyes closed, then? Shilian advised. What direction did it head in after it took you from the Temple of Wind and Water? Ming Yi asked. They urgently needed Shi Qingxuan's location. Shi Qingxuan's eyes were closed, and he couldn't see where he was going, but he could approximate his location based on his general bearing and account of his steps. And yet Shi Qingxuan replied, I don't know. You don't even know that? Shi Qingxuan was outraged. Who in their right mind would take note of something like that? And I thought it was you pulling me, didn't I? Hua Cheng was still only observing the proceedings from the sidelines, and was already bored to the point that he'd changed back into his red robes. Then he changed to black robes again, then to white robes. Almost every time Shilian looked back, he was sporting a new look, and with every new look there were different hairstyles, different accessories, different boots, and so on. Sometimes playful, sometimes elegant, sometimes deadly, sometimes extravagant. Shilian was dazzled by all the colors, but he kept looking back, unable to keep his eyes off Hua Cheng for long. The moment he realized what he was doing, he blinked hard, only just stopping himself from impulsively blurting out, "That outfit's not bad," or "That looks good." He said instead, "Stop, stop. Now is not the time to argue." With every word, Lord Windmaster takes another step, and the farther he wanders, the harder he'll be to find. Shi Qingxuan moaned his grievance. "Is it really that hard for you guys to find me? It hasn't been more than 50 or 60 steps, I think. It definitely can't be over 100. We're going super duper slow." "Not over 100 steps?" Mingyi swiftly charged to the end of the street and disappeared, then reappeared in an instant, in front of the entrance of the Temple of Wind and Water. "Not there." Curses. "The teleportation array!" Shilian cried. After the Reverend of Empty Words used the mayhem as a cover to abduct the Windmaster from the Temple of Wind and Water, it probably cast the teleportation array and sent them both elsewhere. Otherwise, within a radius of only 100 steps to search, he should have been long since found. If the creature had used that spell, they could be anywhere in the world by now, and searching for the Windmaster would be like hunting for a needle in a haystack. They couldn't be careless in this affair, so Shilian immediately said, "I will report to the upper court." However, Shi Jingxuan hastily stopped him. "Wait! Your Highness, don't go! You promised to keep this a secret. My brother's third heavenly tribulation is coming soon. The third one is huge, and he can't mess this up." "Keep this up, and I'll make you go through a tribulation right this minute," Mingyi said. Shi Jingxuan was enraged. "I said no, and I mean it. Do you have any idea how many eyes were watching my brother? Are watching my brother? That thing definitely timed this deliberately. But I won't let it have its way. Never. Even if I die and my bones rot, I'll only allow myself to be dug up after my brother's completed his trial." A moment later, Mingyi relented. "Fine. Very well." Julian's intuition was sharp, and he sensed a suppressed fury in Mingyi's tone. Such an intense emotion had never surfaced on him before, and it unsettled Julian. Unwilling to allow any other problems to start, he cut in. "Lord Windmaster, is the creature still dragging you along?" "Yeah," Shi Qingxuan replied. "It's gripping my arm right now." "Is there anything notable about its body, like a peculiar evil aura or a certain smell or feel?" Shilian asked. "No, there's nothing." "What about your surroundings? Is the path under your feet rough or smooth? Have you stepped on anything or hit anything?" Shilian wanted to see if he could draw a general perimeter based on the surrounding environment. "The path is very strange," Shi Qingxuan said. "Very soft, very light. It's like I'm walking on clouds." Let me drink.
Right.
Shilian had no response, but thought to himself, "You're probably just weak in the knees from terror." 2 out of 5 of Shi Qingxuan's senses were already sealed. It was hard enough just to scrape together any clues, and they likely had no more coming. Although Huacheng was with them, bored stiff while watching the show, his tagging along was purely for his own entertainment. He had no attachment to Shi Qingxuan whatsoever, and as an entity of the ghost realm, he had no reason to help a heavenly official. Furthermore, Shilian didn't want to trouble him by always begging for his help, so he steadied himself and voiced his idea. "Lord Windmaster, I have a plan that might help you escape from the creature in a flash, but I need your permission." "Okay, I give you permission," Shi Qingxuan replied without hesitation. However, Huacheng suddenly stiffened. "The soul-shifting spell?" "What?" asked Shi Qingxuan. "That's right," Shilian responded. "The soul-shifting spell." The soul-shifting spell was exactly as its name indicated. It was a spell that let the caster swap souls, to use one's eyes to gaze through another's. The spell wasn't used often, as it brutally burned spiritual power, and very few were willing to give up control of their bodies to begin with. Huacheng's expression grew serious. "Guga, caution." "What are you going to do if it looks at you?" Shi Jingxuan asked. "I'm not scared of it, so it doesn't matter," Shilian replied. "Do it," Mingyi said. Huacheng, however, pressed him again. "Guga, please reconsider." Suddenly, Shi Jingxuan said, "It stopped moving." Hearing this, Shilian shouted at the communication array, "There's no time to hesitate." Shi Jingxuan gritted his teeth. "It's all up to you now, Your Highness." "Okay," Shilian said. He closed his eyes as soon as the words left his mouth. All of a sudden, his body felt feather light, light enough that it seemed he was floating into the heavens. Then he abruptly became exceedingly heavy, heavy enough that it felt like he was going to plunge deep into the earth. The world whirled around him before his senses gradually returned. He steadied himself, but his eyes remained closed. He could not hear a single sound. There was a hand gripping his arm, and he was standing still. Shellian opened his eyes. One hand removed the earplugs, the other twisted to seize the Reverend of Empty Words in reverse hold. He smiled at the creature. "Hi there." Shi Qingxuan's eyes had been closed for a long time, and it was pitch black all around them. Thus, when Shellian opened the eyes of Shi Qingxuan's body, he hadn't adjusted to the darkness and couldn't see anything. But whatever had been grabbing him was now being grabbed by him. Royer wasn't here, so Shellian cast a locking spell to secure that hand in an iron cuff, preventing this creature from escaping with magic. Shi Qingxuan's voice came over the communication array. "Your Highness, are you okay? If not, we'll switch back, and I'll take care of it myself after all." It seemed Shi Qingxuan had also safely switched to his body. Shellian had a firm grip on the Reverend of Empty Words, and he clobbered it over 30 hard kicks in the span of a second. "I'm fine!" Since their souls had only just been switched, they needed time to adjust. As soon as Shellian had gotten a chance to get used to this body, his moves would be even more brutal. "Your Highness, let me tell you the incantation for manipulating my spiritual weapons. Use as much of my spiritual power as you need. Don't hold back." Shellian had no sword to wield, so he flashed open the Windmaster fan. "Okay." Shi Qingxuan then added, "I'll also tell you the spell for transforming into a woman. I'm stronger in my female form." Shellian resolutely refused. "No, that's not necessary." "Gugga, hurry and take a look at your surroundings," Huacheng said gravely. "Tell me where you are." "No," Ming-Yi said. "First tell us what you're fighting, right now." During their exchange, Shellian's eyes had adjusted to the dark environment. He squinted at the black shadow before him. However, even though the contours of the surrounding trees and branches could be distinguished, he just couldn't make out the black shadow's face. It was as if there was a cloud of evil black mist swirling around its figure. The Windmaster's fan was a first-rate spiritual device. It could blow away evil and cleanse the world. After he received the incantation spell from Shi Qingxuan, Shellian recited it in his mind and swept the fan. A whirlwind blew from the ground, rattling the surrounding woods, and even a few of the small, weaker sprouts were pulled from their roots entirely. It was undeniably powerful, but unfortunately the wind had veered a little off course and didn't hit the right target. Spiritual devices weren't easy to manipulate. He wasn't the master of the Windmaster fan after all, and naturally couldn't handle it as smoothly as Shi Qingxuan. The proper angle and power were both difficult to grasp. It was either too strong or too weak, either off course or completely backwards. After realizing this, Shellian gave up and changed tactics. He snapped the fan shut and used it as a blunt weapon instead, fiercely striking at the creature's weak points. He then opened the fan again with another snap. A sheen of spiritual aura generated on the edge of the fan, turning it into a razor-sharp steel blade. It slashed through the air, its glint chilling. Shi Qingxuan probably figured out what he was doing and cried out despairingly, "Your Highness, what's wrong with you? That's my spiritual device. I can't believe you're using it as a martial weapon. What a waste of a god's gift." This was a common flaw when it came to martial gods. Though he was otherwise occupied, Shellian spared a moment to say flatly, "It's all the same. Makes no difference." "Gugga!" Huacheng's tone had become harsher. Shellian knew that what he was pressing for, and as he fought, he rapidly scanned his surroundings. There was a picturesque natural scenery, as well as towers and pavilions. However, ultimately, nothing stood out that could indicate where he was. The Reverend of Empty Words noticed his movement, and probably guessed his objective. "You're not Shi Qingxuan," it stated. Shellian never paused in his attacks, but his mind rapidly processed the comment. "It shouldn't be this easy to guess that the soul-shifting spell is active. How did it determine I'm not Shi Qingxuan so quickly? Well, whatever. Keep going." The way he fought was completely inhumane. The Reverend of Empty Words seemed unable to take the beating any more, so it spoke. "You'll fall down this instant." Sure enough, it had started to direct curses at Shellian. However, it was like Shellian had heard nothing, and he only pummeled it harder. The Reverend of Empty Words then said, "You're going to face defeat." Shellian laughed. "I already faced defeat 800 years ago. A few more times means nothing to me. How much more can I be defeated? Just give up. Nothing you say on me will work." "Gugga," Huacheng called. "If you can't determine where you are, just launch a whirlwind into the sky with the Windmaster fan, and I'll be able to locate you." What a coincidence. Shilian had just the same thought. All right, let me drink.
This guy's so gay.
Shilian's like, you can't hurt me. I thought of it 2 months ago when I was overthinking. Just as he was about to make the move, the Reverend of Empty Words let out a creepy chuckle. Someone's coming? For some reason, that alarmed Shilian. Sure enough, the creature hissed. Don't worry. The one coming to find you will die before your very eyes. Shilian couldn't laugh anymore. His heart dropped violently and his breathing hitched. The next second, he surprisingly yelled out, Shut up! In a flash, he landed more than 50 heavy kicks on the Reverend of Empty Words, each, each bashing directly on its head. Though it could barely speak under such an onslaught, it still sighed in deep satisfaction, like it had partaken of some sacred gourmet delight. It then laughed coldly. Shilian had accidentally dropped his guard and let it taste what it wanted. But hadn't the mind to notice, because what it said truly struck a terrible blow on his heart. Even if he knew Hua Cheng wouldn't die before his very eyes, so easily as the creature said, and to be frank, Hua Cheng was already dead, a deep, uncontrollable panic still manifested in him. He hadn't realized he couldn't stand to even hear the idea. Although those in the communication array didn't notice anything amiss, it was as if Hua Cheng had a sixth sense, and he grew audibly alarmed. Gaga, is it saying something to you? It's saying nonsense. No, it said nothing, Shilian replied. Hua Cheng immediately understood and let out a curse. It's seeking its own death. Tell me right now, and I'll come straight to you. No need. Don't come here, Shilian hastily said. Absolutely do not come. Tell me, Hua Cheng urged. Sorry to interrupt, Shi Qingchuan spoke up. The two of you really did secretly exchange verbal passwords, right? Your Highness, did you not notice? You're in the wrong array. The wrong array.
Oh my
They're
god.
literally like worried about each other in the public group chat. So funny. It was only then that Shilian realized the problem. Ever since he used the shifting spell, while every word Hua Cheng said to him was passed through their private communication array, he'd been so focused on fighting, and his heart was such a mess, that he'd been responding in their group spiritual communication array by accident. Now the fact that they had connected in the private communication was utterly exposed. However, this was no time to be embarrassed. It's nothing, Shilian said. Give me half an instant's time. I can take care of this thing. After that, he plugged his ears anew and focused only on dealing with the Reverend of Empty Words, unleashing even more brutal attacks. He had no idea that back in the town of Fugu, Hua Cheng heard his reassurance, raised his hand, and struck Ming Yi. Ming Yi crashed a meter into the ground from the force of the blow. Oh, hi, Whisker. Hua Cheng whirled around to address Qi Qingchuan, who had taken over Shilian's body. Switch back. Shi Qingchuan had already planned on changing back, but after seeing that strike, he hurriedly said, Crimson Rain Sought Flower, what are you doing? I'll switch back right now. His Highness is helping me, so it'd make more sense if you hit me. Why did you hit Ming Shang? But the moment he spoke, he realized that he was currently in Shilian's body. Of course Hua Cheng wouldn't hit him. If he had to hit someone, his only choice was Ming Yi. So funny. Goofy. Back in the dark forest, Shilian's immersion in the fight was disrupted by Shi Qingchuan's hollering in the communication array. Your Highness, can you please plug my ears and run away? I'm switching back. Lord Windmaster, will you be able to handle it? Shilian asked. I can't fight it, but I can still flee from it, Shi Qingchuan replied. Shilian gave the Reverend of Empty Words one final kick, sending it flying dozens of meters away. He turned around to make a run for it, but then he stopped. Wait, you don't need to flee. Let me set up a protection array for you. Lord Windmaster, do you have any protective spiritual devices on your person? If you don't, precious treasures will do. Hearing him, Shi Qingchuan hastily replied, Treasure? I've got that. Feel around my neck. There's a longevity locket. Will that do? Shilian felt around, and sure enough, Shi Qingchuan was wearing a longevity locket on a long golden chain. Its sheen was exquisite and opulent. Yes, this is a rare treasure. Excellent, he exclaimed in delight. Really? Shi Qingchuan said. I've got plenty more. There's the jade belt around my waist, the agate ring on my finger, some pearls on my boots, the sandalwood handle of my whisk that's older than you. Oh, apparently the whisk hairs are also rare, plucked from some spiritual beast. He rattled off 7 or 8 items in one breath, then concluded, "In any case, your highness, just take a look and see if you can use anything on me." Yes, they could be used. They were all extremely rare treasures. Julianne was shocked, as expected of the younger brother of the Watermaster, the god of wealth. Let me drink. "These will work," Julianne assured. "I'll find a house nearby to set up an array. When you've switched back, keep the earplugs in and don't look outside. Stay in the house and don't go out. Wait until we come find you." Shi Qingchuan was about to break down in tears. "Your Highness, you're just too reliable. Thank you. From today onward, you're my other best friend. This Wind Master will never forget you in any good endeavors." I love them
My
so much.
other
They make
best
me. They're
friend.
so bestie. My other best friend. Julianne didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he responded politely, "Thank you." During their exchange, the Reverend of Empty Words was left in the dust. Glancing round, Julianne found a small pavilion nearby and hurried inside, then shut and locked all the doors and windows with a wave of his hand. He wrapped the golden longevity locket around the door latch, laid out the other treasure's information, and bit his finger to draw an array with blood. All of these actions were done in quick succession, and once complete, he sat in the center of the room and closed his eyes. 1, 2, 3, soul-shifting spell, return! He felt violently hurled into the skies again, then plunged downwards. After a wave of vertigo, Julian once more felt his feet touch the ground. He swayed and nearly fell over, but a pair of hands caught and supported him before he could. He heard Hua Cheng's dark, grave voice when he opened his eyes. "Gaga, I think you had better explain yourself." Julian grabbed his arm to keep steady. Just as he was about to respond, he noticed someone was missing. "Where's Lord Earthmaster?" he asked. "Don't know," Hua Cheng said dismissively. Julian was taken aback. "Don't know?" Oh my god, this image. Hold on. I forgot about this. Then he looked to the side. There was a human-shaped crater on the ground, and Ming Yi was slowly crawling out of the hole.
No.
Julian was struck momentarily speechless. Shi Chuan's voice came over the communication array. "Huh?" Julian tensed. "Has it come?" Since he had access to so many of Shi Chuan's treasures to form an array, the defense of the house was impenetrable. The Reverend of Empty Words shouldn't be able to intrude so easily. Even if it was powerful, it would still take quite a bit of time. However, Shi Chuan said, "No, no, no. Your Highness, this array is impressive, steady as the mountains. It's really secure. I don't think anything could break in for the next 3 days and nights. It's just, I can't believe I'm here." "Where? Do you recognize it?" Julian asked, amazed. "Of course I recognize it," Shi Chuan replied. "This is the Terrace of Cascading Wine. It's where I ascended." "The Terrace of Cascading Wine?" Julian blinked.
Of course, the terrace
The,
of
of course, the
cascading
Terrace of
wine.
Cascading Wine. Shi Chuan seemed to have made a circuit of the room. "That's right," he firmly concluded. "I'm sure of it. I come back here every few decades to check up on it." No wonder the Reverend of Empty Words could tell he wasn't the real Shi Chuan. If he were, he wouldn't have been so disoriented when scanning for nearby landmarks. He would have known they were near the Terrace of Cascading Wine with just one look. After Ming Yi crawled out of the hole, he squatted on the ground to start drawing an array. But after only drawing a few strokes, he raised his hand and blasted away the array entirely. Hua Cheng's eyes grew cold, and Julian was startled. Lord Earthmaster, what are you doing?" Ming Yi rose to his feet. "We can't use the teleportation array anymore. We have to go on foot." "What do you mean we can't use it?" Julian exclaimed. "Someone has just destroyed all teleportation array connection points near the Terrace of Cascading Wine. No, all the connection points in this whole area." Shi Chuan was brought to the Terrace of Cascading Wine via the teleportation array not long ago. It would appear that as soon as Shi Chuan hid himself inside the pavilion, the Reverend of Empty Words reacted. It had tampered with the points to intentionally slow the rest of them down. It was like their attempt to cross through a mountain range had been thwarted by their enemy, destroying the passes. Now, no one could get close to the terrace of Cascading Wine using the teleportation array. If we leave now, how long will it take before we get there? Shilian asked. Mingyi had already turned and set off. An hour. Shilian called out to Shi Chuan in the communication array. Lord Windmaster, we're heading to where you are. We'll be there within an hour. Just sit tight until we get there. If anyone or anything knocks, you absolutely must not open the door. Yes, yes, yes. That goes without saying, Shi Chuan said. Even if you hadn't said it, I already know that. I'm not a toddler who will open the door to anybody. So then, my lords, please hurry, okay? Fortunately, the town of Fugu and the terrace of Cascading Wine weren't on opposite ends of the earth, but within an acceptable distance of each other. They could still make decent time if they hurried, so the three set off, then and there. On the way, Shilian casually tested how much power he had left, and discovered that the soul-shifting spell had indeed burned out his supply quite aggressively. Of the enormous flood Huacheng had poured into him, more than half was already spent. Huacheng noticed his movements. Guga, do you need more? Shilian hastily shook his head.
Fucking guy.
No, really, Sunlong, thank you ever so much for your generosity earlier. You're welcome, Huacheng said. I already said, you can take as much as you want. After a pause, he added, half-jokingly, but when Guga pays me back, can I collect some interest?
Wow.
Shilian softly cleared his throat, thinking it was probably a question of whether he could pay anything back at all. But of course, he still put on a bold front. Yeah, sure. Although they had estimated the journey would take an hour, the three of them weren't mortal, and it was a dire situation. So naturally, they arrived sooner than expected. When they reached the terrace of Cascading Wine, Shilian took a look around. Sure enough, it was the same place he'd seen before. They were surrounded by the chaotic mess created by his misuse of the Windmaster fan. It had refused his control and blown over the trees and bushes. Shilian felt a little embarrassed by the sight. Your Highness, in which building did you set up the spiritual array? Do you remember? Mingyi asked. Of course, Shilian remembered, and he was searching for it as well. Soon his eyes lit up and he pointed. It's that small pavilion. The three headed towards the pavilion. The nearer they got, the more relaxed they became, as if they had finally seen a ray of hope. But when they were close, Shilian's pupils shrank. The doors to the pavilion were open. They creaked eerily as they swung back and forth in the cold night air. And that's the end of the chapter.
I feel like every adventure they go on is just more and more silly. How did he fucking get into that hole?
No, because remember Huacheng hit him so hard he fucking made a hole in the ground, because he couldn't hit Shilian, because
I didn't know it was that hard.
Yeah, Shi Qingxuan was in Shilian's body, so he couldn't hit him. So he had to hit
What?
Mingyi because he was he was so upset that his boyfriend was lost. He had to fucking hit him.
He didn't say anything like, hey, why did you fucking hit me into the ground?
Mingyi's worried about his boyfriend. He's repressed, but he's worried.
God. It was silly. It was very good.
The images are... It's so funny how much they can like flirt while they're in the middle of like insanity.
Yeah, like guys,
like
down.
guys, there's people watching.
Have some
Decorum.
Decorum, yeah. Dude, I'm cold, but I'm hot.